Dear beloveds, it is such a joy to be joining you again after my 1 week sabbatical from social media as I journeyed deep into the third level retreat here in Mama Bali. And I'm still here. I'm now in Canggu. I'm not in Ubud anymore. It's very different around here. But we are having a few days of rest and recuperation with the lead mentors to integrate what we've been doing, which has been big stuff, holding space for women to really go deep into meeting their subconscious programs, to train in how to do that for others, and to be willing to hold someone whilst they go on the journey of being cracked open. Caroline Mace, I think, says that, our heart doesn't break, it breaks open. And that idea of, being able to hold someone while they break open is such a beautiful image and such an apt description of what we're doing in the third level retreat, because that's what then these women will go forward and do for their one another to begin with, and then their clients as they qualify as intuitive guides. We describe intuitive guide work as being fear hunters, and that's truly what it is. The only thing that heals is our willingness to move from fear to love and to meet all of the fears that are there within us. And those fears are both the conscious fears that we're aware of, but more importantly, the subconscious programs that we've inherited, that we've had placed in us through our genetics, that we have been seeded with since the beginning of human consciousness through the collective unconscious. And so in all those different ways, we are holding belief that is usually fearful, that is preventing us from being the clearest possible vessel for the truth that we are not even of this reality, that we are pure unlimited consciousness. And it's such an exciting journey. It's just really marvelous. That's not actually what I want to talk about with you today, though. That work is the work of the third level. And in a way, I think if you asked any of the women who've been on retreat, and those who were there with me and the lead mentors on this last retreat, it's almost impossible to describe what the journey is, and the images don't do it justice, and the words we use to describe it don't do it justice. But it's the alchemy of every woman who is in that group, and there's never an accident of who is there and what they offer and share, that creates the deep transformation. And this group went very deep, very quickly. And it is humbling to watch. But the other thing that happens when I am in that space is, I'm holding, but I'm also receiving, and I'm receiving the power of their transformation. And it often means that I kind of up level very quickly. And I received some understanding, or deepening of an understanding, and I'm going to try to share that with you. It's the first time I've spoken about it, other than to Amy and Gemma, the lead mentors, which I did in a very kind of like eyes wide, kind of state of, oh my God, this is so true. And I don't really know how to articulate it in words, but I'm going to give it a crack, because that is my job. As a teacher, my job is to transform what I receive in that vibrational state into words so that it can be shared. And that's what we do also as intuitive guides. The information that comes from the infinite is not in English. We have to decode it, and I want to try and decode right now for you. So if you give me that great privilege of getting to share this with you, probably very imperfectly, but I'm very excited to try. And so be patient with me, and I'll do my best. So we are very attached to the idea that the beginning and end of our life is birth and death. And that journey is, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, and let's say you do, you have a certain amount of time in each lifetime, and then you come back again and you try your life lessons again, and you get closer to understanding, and you get opportunities to grow in your understanding and to awaken to deeper and deeper levels. And every lifetime gives you those learning opportunities, and you get closer to the truth of what you are, which is God, and you never left God's embrace in the first place. But the dream of this life is a necessary illusion that helps us to awaken to the truth of what we are. That's basically what I understood, and what we generally, especially in the third level, but also in the world of spirituality tend to understand. And I don't think that's wrong, but I think I've understood more than I was understanding before, which is, you know, good. That's a good sign. What I saw and understood was we attach birth and death as those that living and dying and coming into being and leaving form, and we consider that to be the lifetime, and it begins and it ends with those two bookmarks. But it's not actually the case. Every choice is a death and a rebirth. So rather than considering that your life begins and ends on the moment of your birth and the moment of your death, and then you'll come back and do it all again, every time you make a choice that is higher in consciousness or more full of love, and I mean true love, as in not human ideas of love, of self-sacrifice and martyrdom, but when you make a choice for love rather than fear, you are being born into a new life. You are being born into the next level of your awakening. And for us to truly understand that, we have to let go completely of linear time. We have to let go of past, present, future. And really what I was able to understand was that, and I know this, and I know I've known it here for a long time, but I felt it and lived it and experienced it here, is that there is only concurrent time. So there is only present time. So every past life and every possible future life is all at once, as well as every concurrent life. So every time you make a choice for love in the here and now, you are rippling the effect of that higher choice through the consciousness of your being in all of its lifetimes. You are altering the fabric of your soul's awakening journey in every possible time and space location, because it is actually all concurrent. You are freeing everything, including, you know, the generations before you and the generations that will come after you. So it's breaking our addiction to thinking in linearity, but also breaking our addiction to thinking in terms of death and birth as the bookmarks of our life. So every time we make a choice for fear, if you want to use the metaphor of life and death, we collapse the wave. To talk in quantum physics language, you know, we collapse the wave function. We take all possibility and we turn it into one possibility, which is to close down that awakening journey, and to, you know, to not to use language of forwards and backwards, but we stop that awakening momentarily. And of course, we always get the next opportunity. Every moment is a choice for love if you want to make that choice. But if we think about it in terms of time for a little bit, if you imagine that every time you make a choice, you split your consciousness, and your life, the possibility of what your life was or is, splits, and you part of you goes off in that direction, your consciousness goes off in that direction, part of your consciousness goes off in that direction. There is so much in this that I can't quite fathom in words yet, but there is always the more expedient path back to God, or back to the path of awakening, and that is always the most love-filled path. And if you think about that, if you keep your consciousness holy and whole, if you can somehow bring all of your consciousness to present timeness, then it's so much easier to make those choices that are going to, instead of splitting your consciousness, they hold you in holiness and wholeness. I hope any of that makes sense. I hope that there's something in that that excites you and interests you, but it's that idea of, can we stop thinking in life and death in terms of birth and death as being those moments, and everything that happens is sort of our fate in that life, and then we've got to get on with it, and then we, you know, get another birth and another go round, and instead look at it rather that every choice for love is a new life where you collapse all of those other potentials and make the most expedient path back to God. to the awakening journey, and that it's no shock then to discover that we are living maybe 1 million possible concurrent lives. I mean, how many times have you faced a fork in the road and made a choice, and where you went one way, another part of your consciousness went another way, and that's the other parallel concurrent life that's going on. But all of that learning, all of that wisdom in all of those possible pathways is available to you now, because it's all happening now. It's big stuff for me, and I feel very excited about it, because it's it's rather than thinking, oh, well, you know, I've messed up here, or that next time around it'll be different and I'll get different opportunities to, you know, but actually it's every choice. The choice is the death or the birth into a higher level of potential, a new life. And so you're never having to imagine that you've got to go through another 90-year life or 100-year life or a 20-year life or whatever it happens to be for you. And I hope very much that in hearing that, some part of you might become less afraid of death, and make choices that are not informed by that fear of that loss, as though it ever could be a loss. Because the part that you're witnessing die in someone you love is only one of their many, many, many concurrent lives. And that energy is never lost. Many people have talked about this in many different ways. And I guess what I want to share is my sense of deepening into, because of the alchemy of the women that held me as I held them during this third level retreat, I feel like it went from here to here. And with such grace, I see now that it's moment by moment, my life dies and is born again, and I die to a smaller, more limited part of myself, and I am born into a higher part of myself, and back to that, you know, that most expedient path back to God. I see lots of comments. I'm sorry that I'm not reading them all. I'll go back through. It's yeah, absolutely, that idea. It's the miracle, you know, the correction of perception in any moment is the miracle. But what if we think of that miracle as it's an entirely new life? You have reborn yourself, you have rebirthed yourself into a higher state of consciousness, and that's never lost. It's still filtering away in there. I'm still trying to fully grapple with what I felt, and to put it into words, of course, in some ways does it a disservice, but it is also our job. That's the tool that we have right now. And many of you have heard me joke that one day I'll teach the third level entirely by just us sitting in a vibration, because that's much more efficient, and we'll all be able to do that. That time is coming rapidly. It's the vibration that does the work. And I guess that's what I want you to feel a little bit, is the emotional signature of my excitement of recognizing we are nowhere ever but here, and that we are always more than just what we are conscious of. And that wisdom, that knowledge, that power, that experience is accessible to us in any given moment, and made more so every time we make that choice for love. And Lausanne said just before that, you know, the Holy Spirit always guides us to the shortest, easiest path to God. Absolutely. That is the A Course in Miracles' very essence, is that the suffering is a choice we make. But the recognition that the suffering is a choice we make in that moment is a correction of perception, which causes the miracle, which is the birth into the next layer of consciousness, which is the new life, not the literal rebirth. I see a lot of fear of death. It is, you know, obviously what we are most afraid of is losing something that we love, or someone that we love, as though it is possible. And I would hope that anything that I've shared here might give you some courage, that in that recognition that it's simply not possible. It's simply not possible for us. What we are engaging with at the level of form is already an illusion. It's already a dream. It never really happened. It's a simulation, and we've placed our consciousness temporarily into a vehicle in the simulation, you know, to play out the awakening of consciousness. And it is nothing more and nothing less than that. It is the necessary conditions for our awakening at this point of time. So thank you so much for sharing that with me and letting me speak that out loud for the first time. And to just to feel less fear. I would love that for all of us. And to make that permanent shift, as Marianne Williamson says, from fear to love, so that neurologically, physiologically, you know, hormonally, chemically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, we are primed for love. We are primed to privilege love, and that love is the agape, that divine love, not that limited human idea of love, which is so often about suffering and self-sacrifice. So thank you for letting me share that with you in this beautiful place. I'm in Canggu right now. There's a pool out there. There's lots of glorious lush greenness. Although I'm missing Ubud, I have to tell you, I've realized that Ubud is my special piece of paradise, as I'm sure it is for so many in Bali. And these other places are fun to visit, but my soul is like, I want to go back. I want to go back there. But I leave tomorrow. I'll be back in cold Melbourne. Please tell me we're having a late summer or something. I doubt that's true. But I am excited for whatever comes, and I'm excited to be back here again in October with the next group of priestesses and my beautiful postgrad students who will be joining me for that one. Every retreat, of course, is like a new birth. I feel like a new person every time, and of course we know why now, that every moment is every moment is the birth and the death. The productive death of what we no longer need to carry forward with us. And let's be less afraid of that change. It's a constant. It's a very good sign, in fact. I love you all very much. It's very good to be back. I will let you know, of course, that there are only 3 interview times left for this July intake of the 3rd level. I'll share some details here, and if you're interested in booking one of those, please do. We are very close to capacity already with the number of women who are interviewing and those who've already said yes. And if you are just sitting back thinking, I've got a little bit more time, it's almost done. We're almost at the end of this. So much love to you all. Bye.